Good afternoon, I'm Jim McKay. The 1976 season of NASCAR, the big leagues of stock car racing, has gone as far as it can. This is the 30th and last race of the year, and the championship has yet to be determined. To be honest, though, it isn't very far away. If this car here, number 11, can get to the starting line, not the finish line, if it can take the green flag to begin the race, then the man who drives it will be the champion of the year for the first time in his life. And that's Cale Yarborough. Stand right here, Cale. Just got to get it to the green flag.
Right. That's all we got to do, Jim. It's been a long, hard season. This is the race I've been looking for all year, the last one.
Once in a while, a man gets a year where he makes no mistakes. In addition to making no mistakes on the race course, you were a very early supporter of Jimmy Carter,
right,
and you went and won your own election in a landslide, right?
Well, it's been a good year all the way around. We got Jimmy Carter president. We're going to end up champion. You can't ask for any more.
And so Cale Yarborough will get in the car for the last time in 1976. All he's got to do is make it through the pace laps and to the green flag for the start, and he will have won it. Let's take a look at the cars on the front now. On the pole, David Pearson in car number 21 qualified with a speed of 153.964 miles per hour. Right next to him and very close to him in speed, number 71 is Dave Marcus, moving out of the picture there on the right side of your screen. In row 2, the inside car with the yellow appearing top is Cale Yarborough in car number 11. Number 15 is Buddy Baker. The third row, number 2, Bobby Allison. Number 88, Darrell Waltrip. Here's our expert on the sport, a man I should certainly think is better informed on the sport of stock car racing probably than anybody else in the world. Chris Economaki, editor of National Speed Sport News. What are you looking for, Chris?
Well, I'm looking for a wild finish for a nice guy, Cale Yarborough. He's really won the championship by racing for it. The bonus points that he's earned for leading the races have carried him ahead. Without those bonus points, he wouldn't be in front today. So here we have a real race driver winning the championship. He's winning it the way race drivers like to win a championship.
He's not backing into it in any way. He's won it by going to the front in every race that he could.
Right, and no politics either on the racetrack at any rate.
Okay. And here they come right now, Chris. Headed for the start. They're going to get the green flag on this hazy, smoggy day in California. That's Pearson down low on the right of your screen. Marcus right alongside of him. Headed for the start of the Ontario 500.
They're very close, Jim. Despite 29 Chevys in the field, it's a Mercury, a Dodge, a Chevrolet, and a Ford in the top 4 places. And Marcus urges ahead.
He certainly does. Marcus hit the red car, number 71, and down low it's Cale Yarborough, car number 11 there, squeezing David Pearson back. Pearson, who was on the pole, has now dropped back to third place, and closing on him at the moment is number 15, Buddy Baker.
It's interesting to watch Cale, Jim. He doesn't have to race. He's won the championship now, but he's right in there and gaining on Marcus.
He certainly is gaining and now passing him, and look, right behind him is Buddy Baker in car number 15. 2 cars went by Dave Marcus literally in the flick of an eye.
That's the draft at work, Jim. He towed him right past Marcus.
Okay, 1-2 then. Car number 11, Cale Yarborough, who has now won the season-long championship, and Buddy Baker in number 15. A good speed shot here. And there's the jubilation in the Junior Johnson pits because their man, Cale Yarborough, has won the year-long championship. There is Junior Johnson himself, a great race driver not too many years ago.
The old warhorse finally has a title.
That's right. He never won it as a driver, but now as a car owner, he has it. And the man who won it for him is in first place in the race, Cale Yarborough, in car number 11. He and Buddy Baker really having it out. And Chris, I think if there are any 2 men who tend to go to the front at the beginning of the race, it's those 2.
If David Pearson denies that he's a wait-and-see driver, there's David back there in 4th place. They are Chargers, Jim, and David is a very calculating driver. He makes his move late in races.
Well, you look at the smog on this race course today, unbelievable out here in the mountain areas about 50, 60 miles from Los Angeles. Okay, it's still the same, except look, David Pearson now has sneaked by and gotten into 3rd place.
It's a beautiful racetrack, Jim. 2.5 miles, patterned after Indianapolis, but smoother. The back straightaway is more than 6 feet higher than the front stretch, so the spectators have greater visibility, which means they go downhill a little bit in turn 3 and uphill a little bit out of turn 1.
And look at this, Darrell Waltrip putting a move on Richard Petty, number 88, trying to pass number 43. Never an easy job. As they come into the turn there, let's see if he can do it. Nope, Richard's going to fight him off. Why is it that the same names seem to go to the front week after week in these NASCAR races? Well, Chris asked that question of the top drivers before the race.
Well, I think, Chrissy, the biggest thing there is not that from the driver's standpoint, but from the equipment standpoint. There's just 6 or 7 winning teams, and if you're not driving one of those particular cars, then no matter how good a driver you are, you're not going to win a race. And that's until some of the Pearsons and the Petties and the Yarboroughs and stuff retire, then I don't think you're going to see that many more new names.
Like I say, there are just so many top cars, say 8 or 10, that is really capable of winning a race if all of them's in there. So, and it's hard for any one guy to come in and say, well, I believe he can do it, but let's try it. So there's just too much money at stake at these cars for owners and mechanics and everything to just put somebody in them just to see if they can do it.
I just don't think there's any room for anybody else right now.
Certain guys that I think walk on that narrow line in between disaster and victory, and it's a sacrifice that you work into. The younger drivers that are coming along right now, such as Darrell Waltrip and people like that, they're destined to be the superstars of tomorrow.
Why is it so difficult for a new name to appear in a winner's circle in this kind of racing?
I think the biggest thing, Chris, is that it takes a tremendous amount of money and also a tremendous amount of experience. You're racing with guys that have backgrounds that date back to their father's days, you know, Buddy Baker and the Petties and Junior Johnson with Cale. Those guys have got a tremendous amount of experience, and it gets very discouraging, very depressing to a young driver to come into this league with a $25,000 investment, and he can't even get back his expenses a lot of times because he just can't get the job done due to the lack of experience.
Well, it is an expensive sport, Jim. The prize money today is $183,000, and the winner will get $17,515, and the last place man $650, which doesn't do much if you're towing from the Carolinas out here.
Oh, here's a development on the race course. That's David Pearson on the right, going down low, trying to put a pass on Buddy Baker for second place, and he's got him. Car number 21, which sat on the pole, then dropped back to fourth place, is now in second, but a real battle still with Buddy Baker. Now, here they come, and not far behind them, look, Richard Petty in car number 43 flashed by in fourth place, and Darrell Waltrip, who was a contender just a minute ago, is out of the race for the day. He'll have trouble, as he said, making expenses. We're back in Ontario, and it looks like the day is done for car number 15 and driver Buddy Baker. One of the best of the good old boys has had it for this afternoon. In the growing smog, Cale Yarborough still leads the race, but look, David Pearson in car number 21 is closing in on him. Pearson sat on the pole, remember, dropped back to fourth, and now he's challenging for the lead again. A classic duel and a familiar one.
These boys from the South really know about stock car racing, and Pearson now is measuring Cale Yarborough and staying in his draft. Despite the fact that Ontario is fairly flat, draft is very important here. Now,
wait a minute, now David going down low. I think he's going to come into the pit. Looks like a pit stop for David Pearson. Yes, here he comes. Looks like a very routine one, by the way, coming in very much under his own power. And take a look at the most famous pit crew in the world, the Wood brothers, going to work.
They are really well trained. They're waiting for him with everything they need. The air hoses, the pneumatic wrenches, the jacks, the spare wheels. The fuel men are working on the left rear corner and the right side rubber.
And look at this, out on the race course, Cale Yarborough is headed for the pits, but very, very slowly. Now, could be a couple of things. There's David going back out. He'll get the lead as Cale comes into the pits. Could he have run out of gas or engine problem? Didn't see any smoke, Chris.
Whatever. Well, it could very well be out of gas. You know, Jim, these cars do not have fuel gauges, and the first indication that a car is out to the driver is when the engine stops. And this is probably what happened because he was running very well, and as you say, there is no smoke.
And, of course, they must time that fuel consumption very, very closely in order to make as few stops as possible, right?
That's correct. Now, he may have a problem getting started because if it drained all the lines between the tank and the engine, he may have to crank that engine for a few seconds before it fires.
Well, they're pouring an awful lot of fuel in that car, and there is the leader on the race course, David Pearson. The man who sat on the pole at the beginning of the race has finally retaken the lead. Off goes Cale, and it looks like he's okay. It must have been the fuel problem.
That's right, but now he's got some ground to make up.
And Cale has been known to make up a lot of ground on a race course. Look out, we've got a spin out there. That's Janet Guthrie in car number 68. However, there were a couple of other cars involved in that. Janet, as I saw it out of the corner of my eye, looked like she was trying to avoid another car.
That's right. Carl Joyner's up there on the track. It was a skirmish here. It looked like Janet took evasive action that resulted in her spin.
And quite effective evasive action, really. Looks like the car's all right, in fact. You see, she's got it underway again. Janet Guthrie, the only woman who drives regularly on the NASCAR stock car circuit. The yellow flag out, and there's Joyner coming into the pits.
He's going to have some body work done on that right front fender before he goes back out. Okay, now let's take a look at Janet coming around there. Janet did a great job. She was forced low on the track, and in order to keep from running into the end of the pit wall, deliberately spun the car. It was a close call. There was a very professional move on her part, and of course she has to come to the pits now after that spin.
However, it looks like that good move is going to keep her in the race, at least for a while longer. She was running 18th, by the way, when the crash occurred. Earlier, Chris asked her how she thought she'd do in this race.
What about the 500 today, Janet? What kind of feelings do you have about your possibilities in it?
Well, of course, I've been tending to run around the middle of the field in Grand National racing, and I'm starting 23rd out of, what did we have, 70-some attempting to qualify. I would say if I can manage to finish in the top 10, which I've run in the top 10 on a couple of occasions, if I can finish in the top 10, I'd be really tickled with that.
And here comes Janet Guthrie, and now after having a wild twirl a little bit ago, she's just giving us the okay sign. With a smile on her face as they're changing the outside tires. A professional attitude, to say the least, and there's the radiator being cooled off on this very hot day here at the Ontario Motor Speedway. Now left side tires being changed. It's going to be an all-four tire change because of the spin which flat spotted the tires. Janet Guthrie provides the first excitement and the first yellow flag from the Trans 500, and here she is back on the track.
The green flag is out in the smog at Ontario, and they're racing again in the Ontario 500. David Pearson, the leader, but that yellow that was out was a good break for Cale Yarborough because he has closed up. Richard Petty is actually second, a very short distance behind the leader, but Cale Yarborough in car number 11 is, well, he's within striking distance, and he had fallen a long way back when he ran out of fuel earlier in the race, you'll recall.
Well, there's only 4 cars in the same lap. Lenny Pond there in the blue Chevrolet is running in the top 10, but he's a lap down. The race is rather important from the rookie standpoint, a battle between Terry Bivens of Shawnee, Kansas, and Skip Manning of Bogalusa, Louisiana, with a $10,000 rookie prize today. One of them is going to win it when it's all over.
Well, there's quite a battle for that more than $17,000 first prize in this race today between David Pearson and Richard Petty, car number 21 and 43. What a familiar scene that is on the race courses of the United States. There they are, Pearson in front and Petty second. You know, there's one school of thought among some drivers that David Pearson doesn't really go out and win races, and he kind of lays back and waits for the other people to break down. Well, he's certainly not doing that today, but Chris did talk to him about that aspect before the race began this afternoon. He asked David, do you really lay back?
Well, I think that's just more or less jealousy of the ones that says I don't race. Of course, if I don't, I must be doing it the right way because I've been winning, so... I really think that that's just the guys that feel like it, I'm out horsepowering them or, you know, got a better car than they have, which I feel like I have too. But just because I have, it don't mean that I need to back off and let them win or something like that. I just try to take care of my equipment. And if you're not at the end of the race, running at the end of the race, you can't win. So I try to take care of my car and don't take any changes. And so I feel like that's just driving a smart race instead of... not racing.
Well, that man is sure driving a smart race today. He is the leader, David Pearson. But now what has happened to Richard Petty? Richard was right behind him, but he has slowed way down on the race course. Richard Petty having a major problem, it appears. That'll put Cale Yarborough in second place. Dave Marcus is going to move into third. That's too bad. Maybe they can fix it. Hope for another yellow. There he is, headed for the pits right now. Familiar number 43 of Richard Petty.
It's been one of Richard Petty's worst years. He's had a lower win percentage this year than he's had in more than a dozen years.
Okay, well, here he comes into the pits. No, it's not pits. It's going to be garage time, it looks like, for Richard Petty. Chris Kanamaki is moving in there, trying to get down in there to have a word with him. They're opening the hood, as you see. That is always a sign of a major problem. But he did not pull into pit stop position, really. He pulled into position for going to the garage.
Back up.
Let's listen here.
Richard, all done?
Thanks. That's it.
Richard Petty ends his season being pushed to the garage area.
The racing year 1976 is over for Richard Petty of Randleman, North Carolina. There's the leader, David Pearson. Jackie Stewart, our colleague on most of these racing telecasts, is unable to be with us today, by the way, and the reason, well, Jackie is giving his sons a Christmas treat in England. Let's join him there now. On this 2.5-mile racetrack, there has been a lot of action, and Cale Yarborough, car number 11, is in the pits again now. He led the race earlier, dropped way back after he ran out of fuel, had fought his way back into second place, but let's see how long this is going to take.
Cale is giving us a great display of persistence and stick-to-itiveness today. He's won the championship, as we mentioned, and he wants to win this race in the worst way.
By winning the championship, if you weren't with us earlier, Chris means very simply that by taking the green flag today, he became the year-long NASCAR champion.
Okay, Junior Johnson on the jacket. Now, Junior's looking under the car. This may mean possible trouble for the number 11.
Okay, getting pushed out. Engine doesn't sound very good. He's got a gear problem there?
I think it's the clutches slipping, Jim. He's got a bit of a problem there in the drive line.
Okay, well, coming down that home stretch now is David Pearson, the leader in car number 21, and he may put a lap on Cale Yarborough. Cale getting up to speed, but Pearson is coming fast and coming right about now. There he is, moving in on Cale Yarborough. Going up high is the lead car and putting a lap on Yarborough. Big tire problems here today, Chris, for several of the cars, it seems.
That's right. Blistered tires have been a problem here, and there you can see what a tire looks like when it's blistered. Blistering comes from heat, and heat is generated by one of two things: a chassis not tuned to the track, or a driver abusing the car, or a combination of both. Now, earlier, Junior Johnson's crew obliged by going through a pit stop for our cameras so we can get a close look at exactly how it's done. There, the dry brake fuel can goes into the car. No gas cap on these cars. It's an aviation type thing, and Herb Nabb here runs with his air wrench to the front wheel. It's a ballet choreographed by Junior Johnson and Herb Nabb, a mechanical one. And this is what happens. And each time the cars come in, those big heavy wheels are taken out by one of the more muscular men on the crew and set down by the man on the wheel. 7 men allowed over the wall, including the driver, but only 6 of them may work. The 7th man's job is to catch the spillage from the fuel. There you see him on the left of the screen, and that's all he may do. The others may do the work, and there's lots to be done in addition to changing the wheels and tires. There's a windshield to be cleaned. There's the driver to be spoken with if necessary. Usually a cold drink is passed to the driver. Sometimes salt tablets if it's a hot day as we have today. And all in all, it's a beautiful scene to watch as these men go through the pit stop of a NASCAR race, and there the job is done.
So there you have it, the pit stop ballet featuring the Rudolph Nureyev of the right front wheel, Herb Nabb. Back on the race course, look at this. Here is David Pearson, the leader, but right behind him is Cale Yarborough, just a lap down and now trying to unlap himself. That's a very important thing in a race of this kind, and look at that. He's going to do it, I think. Yes, Cale Yarborough getting himself back on the same lap with David Pearson, and although he is almost 2.5 miles behind, all it would take would be one yellow flag for him to be able to close up a lot of that ground. It's a very important development in the race.
And as you can see, Jim, David Pearson knows that and wants to get back in front of Cale to guarantee him staying behind him.
Here at the Ontario 500 stock car race, and here is a blown engine for sure. That is number 71. That's Dave Markins, who's been running in second position in the race. He passed Cale Yarborough during Cale's pit stop. The yellow flag comes out, and there we have it, Chris.
Well, it's just what Cale needed. The yellow is out because oil's on the track, and it has to be dried up, and Pearson comes to the pits for a routine stop. When the yellow is out, everybody stops to take advantage, and they're changing tires. There's been no tire problems with Pearson. That car is a perfectly balanced chassis, and the tires are wearing very well. I said earlier, the chassis isn't quite right, then the blistering condition exists.
The famous Wood brothers, they've been pit crews here and at Indianapolis and even at Le Mans in France. But here comes Cale Yarborough into the pits. Under the yellow, now we don't know whether this is a problem this time or whether he's just availing himself of the yellow flag.
They always commend Jim, in the words of the pit crew, to rebuild the racer. Get it all set up to go charge again. And they're putting right side tires on it. And here's left side tires, which means David Pearson getting a full set of 4 new tires. It should be a really race-ready car now going back out on the track.
Okay, that was a rather confident-looking pit crew there. There's Lenny Pond in car number 54. At least for the moment, he's in 3rd place in this race. Well, we'll be right back to see what happens. We're back in Ontario, California again. This is Jim McKay with Chrissy Kanamaki, and that is Cale Yarborough, car number 11, in the pits yet again. Trouble for him because it looks right now as if he is going to be caught. Yes, the green flag is out. They're racing again, and Cale is in the pits. There's the leader, David Pearson, in car number 21. Lenny Pond in car number 54, just behind him, is in 2nd place, but is actually a lap down to him. And then behind him, we have Benny Parsons at number 72, Richard Brooks at number 90, but they are an additional lap behind the leader.
And so David Pearson appears headed for another victory. He'll be the winningest driver on the series this year if he makes it. And Cale Yarborough sits in his car as the mechanics are underneath trying to fix a clutch and transmission problem on the car.
It's a shame because he had it going very well earlier in the day, but this problem has gotten worse and worse. And now they just can't seem to get it going down there.
They're sticking to it, Jim, up opening the hood. The problem appears to be in the linkage to the transmission.
Hey, there's a pretty good race driver, excuse me, Paul Newman, the well-known actor, who's been getting better and better.
He just won a championship down in Atlanta the other day. It's with him as Dave Lockton, the man who built the track here. Okay, today's race is NASCAR sanctioned, and it's the last of the year. Starting out next year, the first round comes on the 16th of January at Riverside Raceway in California, a 500-kilometer road race. Then on the 20th of February at Daytona Beach, Florida, it'll be the Daytona 500. And on February 27th at Richmond, Virginia, a 400-lap race.
Okay, well, I think that's going to be it for the day for Cale Yarborough. Fine effort, but it is all over now. And through the continually gathering smog here, we take a look on the race course, and both Benny Parsons and Richard Brooks have unlapped themselves from Lenny Pond. In other words, they're on the same lap that he is now, although almost 2.5 miles behind. All of the cars, however, a full lap and more behind the leader, David Pearson. He's going to win going away unless something dramatic happens very quickly.
You know, it's interesting, Jim, a 500-mile race on a 2.5-mile track, and here are two of the protagonists, bumper to bumper after all these miles. This NASCAR racing is really great. It's the most highly competitive motor racing in the world.
Yeah, there you have it. Parsons in the lead car, number 72, then Richard Brooks, two of them right together, and just behind them, Lenny Pond in car number 54, but he's actually ahead of them by almost the entire circumference of the racetrack.
Here's Terry Bivens of Shawnee, Kansas, one of the two fighting for the Rookie of the Year award. He had trouble early in the race, made an unscheduled stop under the green, but has come back to be one position away from his arch rival, Skip Manning.
And there is Manning. Earlier, Chris asked both these fellas what they would think about during this race.
Well, once the race starts, really, I'll just be thinking about the race, maybe under a caution flag or something. Of course, we have radios in our car. We'll probably keep up with where Terry is, of course. He's our major competition here as far as the rookie race goes. But we're here to race and not just run for a rookie here, you know, so we'll be racing.
And I'd like to run just as hard as I could. If I can run with the leaders and run halfway through the race, I think I'll get more respect from the people that's into racing by doing that than going out with a real fine car like I've got and idling around trying to get a finish and hope to get another point or two.
And remember that with that Rookie of the Year award goes not only a title, but $10,000, which will buy an awful lot of spare parts. That's Bivens on the race course, and there again, his rival for Rookie of the Year, number 92, Skip Manning. Now let's go to Chris with Cale in the garage area.
Well, for Cale Yarborough, it started out a day of smiles and sunshine, Cale. You're the champion, and congratulations.
Well,
but on today's race, it had to be a frustrating day for you.
Well, it sure was, Chris. You know, I'm real happy to win the championship, but in this Holly Farm Chevrolet ran so good all day long, and we lost the clutch right there, Dan. It's just one of those things, but, you know, you just have to take a little bad with the good. We can't complain. We've had a good year.
You were the fastest man on the track, Cale, and a couple of times you went back. You had tire trouble, but you stayed right in there. Cale, you won the championship the way a champion should win it, and today you gave us a show that I think never will be forgotten. I want to congratulate you and wish you well next year.
Thank you, Chris. We'll be back.
Cale Yarborough, who experienced both the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat in the same race. And there is Janet Guthrie out of the race now. That's a shame because after her spin, she had come all the way up to 9th place. We'll be back for the finish. The smog grows deeper in Ontario. The way it's going, they may have to install headlights to finish this race, but it's going to be soon, and the winner is going to be David Pearson, barring terrifically unforeseen events. However, there's quite a battle for third place going on between car number 72, that is Benny Parsons, the former Detroit cab driver, and car number 90, driven by Richard Brooks. The two of them on the same lap, and there they are together, just ahead of Lenny Pond in car number 54. Now, Pond, remember, is almost a lap ahead of them. He's in second place in the race, but their battle is a true battle for third position in this race with less than 3 laps to go now.
The difference between third and fourth is over $3,000, Jim, so you can understand why this spirited wrestling for the position.
And there's more than $17,000 waiting for this man, it appears, David Pearson, who now has less than 2 laps to go in this race. The grandfather of the Grand National Racing Circuit. And look at this battle for third. Number 90, Richard Brooks, testing Benny Parsons again. He's out in front of him, as a matter of fact. But Parsons up high in car number 72, pulls even again, gets his nose in front. And this $3,000 battle goes on and on because there again comes Brooks. Literally, door handle to door handle here.
It's an interesting battle, too, from a machine standpoint. Parsons is driving a Chevrolet, and Brooks is driving one of only 5 Fords in the race.
And just behind them, Lenny Pond, who, remember, is second in the race, almost a full lap ahead of them. It's a little dangerous for him to hang in there with them. No need for him to do it.
I'm wondering that myself, Jim. He seems to be very close to these two guys. One of them could miscue, knock the other one, and could take Pond out of the race.
Well, there's the white flag, meaning there is 1 lap to go. Only 1 lap to go, and David Pearson will have won the first prize of more than $17,000. Drove an extremely intelligent race. He's always one of the most intelligent drivers on the circuit. There's the battle for third, still going on. And Brooks trying him down low again. Parsons up high. Still, Parsons that much in front. So while their battle goes on, here's the leader, cruising easily for home. That is if you call a speed of about 165 miles an hour, cruising easily.
The presence of Lenny Pond so close to that battling duo of Dick Brooks and Benny Parsons may be that he has a favorite. They say 2 cars together go faster than 1, and he may have one of those drivers that he'd like to see get that extra $3,000.
And here through the smog they come on the final lap of the afternoon of a 500-mile race. And it's going to be David Pearson taking the checkered flag in car number 21. He has won the day, he has won the race, he has won the top prize money. And look at this battle, right to the checkered flag, and it was Benny Parsons just holding off Richard Brooks for third place. The other car with him, once again, Lenny Pond, was second in the race. A tremendous finish between these two fellows. And it was Benny Parsons showing all the skill of a Detroit cab driver, beating his colleague to the next pickup of a fare. But there is the winner, David Pearson, at an average speed of more than 137 miles per hour in his winning Mercury automobile. Second place to Lenny Pond, third to Benny Parsons, fourth to Richard Brooks, of course. In fifth place was James Hilton, sixth Bob Wawak, seventh and eighth were the rookies Terry Bivens and Skip Manning. Chrissy Kanamaki has moved over to victory lane for his traditional word with the winner, so let's go on down to him now.
And coming into victory lane, number 21. One of the biggest winners in stock car racing history, Wood Brothers Peerless Mercury driver David Pearson in the last race of the year. David looking calm, a bit hot, and certainly tired on this hot California Sunday. He asks what it is, and he gets the drink of milk that he always asks for after a victory. And here comes out of the car, and we'll have a word with the winner of the 1976 Times 500. Hey, congratulations, David.
Thank you, Chris.
Exciting race for you?
Yeah, it was. In fact, I want to thank the pit crew and, especially the Fuel Leader, my sponsor, for, having such a grateful car for me all year.
Well, Cale, of course, had trouble. You think he would have beaten you had he stayed in?
Well, I don't know. The time before that, we came in and made adjustment, and we had 4 new tires on, and, of course, he had 4 new tires on, and I was running about the same. And so then later he had a flat and came in, so I don't know. I think it would have been awful close.
Well, it was a great season for you. Congratulations, David.
Thank you.
And so another year ends. Richard Petty having his worst season, a girl in stock car racing, and Cale Yarborough the new champion. And with that, we'll retire our nose guard for 1976.
Chrissy Kanamaki, once a quiet, unassuming newspaper editor, now possessor of the most famous sunburned nose in television. So ends our racing year of 1976.
For Cale Yarborough, as we said, the year of a lifetime, really. How could a man be much smarter than winning all the races he did and the national championship on the racetrack, winning a landslide victory for re-election as county commissioner back home, and being one of the earliest backers of President-elect Jimmy Carter. Quite a year for Cale. As for the race today, however, he wasn't able to finish it, put up a good battle, but the winner once again was the driving grandfather from the Southland, David Pearson.
And we have the word on that Rookie of the Year award. The winner is Skip Manning of Bogalusa, Louisiana. He'll get the $10,000. Again, David Pearson, the winner here. This is the end of our racing year of 1976. It has extended from Ontario to Indy, from Darlington to Monte Carlo. And soon it will all start again. This is Jim McKay, again now to Jackie Stewart.